one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. We have two exits, one in the rear and one here in the front. Each speaker will have 4 minutes to present. After the third minute, the buzzer will go off and you'll have a minute to complete your thoughts. And please put your phones on silent now so that they don't go off while others are speaking. The first speaker is Carmelita Ned. And when you come up, please state your name and address for the record.
Well, my name is Carmelita Ned, 410 Hancock Avenue, Mumbai.
First speaker, Ms. Ned.
I'm here, so regarding the buses that park on South Cleveland Avenue. I'm here to find out, it is the end of the year that will be, it is the end of the year, what will be the agenda for 2019? Why is the investigation not completed? Are you aware of the health and risk myself, my children, and my neighbors are facing? Do you intend to solve this issue? Is there a bias that that we be aware of? Why are you dragging and neglecting your needs of our community? Would you like the media to assist us in resolving this issue ongoing? Why is it a few residents out of many tend to get preferred results? Why have no more reason to keep listening to the same excuses meeting after meeting? We have given our time and patience and must get the issue solved on way to another. Enough is enough. My son came up for Thanksgiving dinner. My child, he's 20 years old. He came to Thanksgiving dinner. And when he came, he has a panic attack. He has panic issue, panic attack. He had to went home the Friday after Thanksgiving dinner. He's afraid to come home for Christmas because he has a medical problem. So I need some result. I don't know where else to go. I investigate on my own. I know down in the clerk's office, there's no permit issue for parking down there for the bus to park on South Fulton Avenue. I would love to meet the owner for the property. I'm not sure if he's here tonight, but if he's here, could you please show your face or say something? Enough is enough. And I'm not going to go across the street over there and try to see the mayor to talk to the mayor about it. The mayor has his own issue going on. The councilmen, councilwomen, I'm begging you, please. We at 420 South, 420 Hancock Avenue need your help badly. We pay our taxes, we vote for you guys, please help us. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Ned. Stephon? Stephon Ritter?
Stephon Ritter, 252 Vernon Avenue, Vernon, New York. Also from 241 South 9th Avenue, Vernon, New York. Every time we come here, we state what we need to state to you, and you never get nothing for the public. Y'all are no longer the public because you're council board members. And in order for us to know that we're African American, we do it in the wrong place. Because we have a Negro band, and we shall overcome. We have songs, we have things to show who we are here at this time right here. And that I'm coming to you again and again to say that you don't have representation if you're not the original Negroes from the land and It's no longer peaceful here. And you let a different race of people come here, and you could look at them and see their homeland in which they come from. And now you're neglecting us, your brothers and sisters who have the same dominion over the same things that you have dominion over. But you're allowing these people to come before us, Rosa Parks. So she denied being put back to third degree. She didn't want that, and neither do we. And now whatever you think that this fake money that's going around, that these things were supposed to be done on the outside of us, as long as you had a union, we were free as a people. So now you became into the union. So now you became into these organizations. Now your all became into something other than your original self. And here we are still our original self that you're incarcerating. I have so many problems going to visit people and keep getting arrested or going to court when this is where my mother lives. And I never did nothing to get in trouble, to disrespect my mother or my family. And going through these stages with the garbage that y'all have in place is really pathetic to someone like myself. I am a key holder here. We won this in 1981. I mean, I went to college, 3 different colleges, a general from the United States Marine Corps. All of these things that's greater than anything that you're presenting to me. And then for me to have to go to court to receive the things is a very disrespectful manner to me for who I am and what I did for my life and for what my children deserve and what my family deserve. That's here, from here, born and raised, Mount Vernon Hospital. You're changing it to Montefiore. I have an incident with the police. They take me over there and try to shoot me with drugs and stuff, trying to say I do drugs. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't do none of these things. I don't hang out. I'm not a rapper. I'm not an entertainment. I'm not in none of these things. But how can we overcome if you're against your own brothers and sisters? This is the refusal of your own brothers and sisters. Your uncle, grandfather. That's grand. And then you have all of these people who don't even belong on the board to be here on this land. But if you're playing the United States and you're playing America and you're trying to be one God, but if Jesus was born from Mary without sperm, and then the Word is with the flesh, and the flesh became God, and the Father is the God, his Father's duty is to civilize the uncivilized, and the mother's duty is to civilize the uncivilized, then this is nothing but contrastand, because the foreigners was coming to go to college for 4 years and go back home, and then they would bring a new one in. They wasn't supposed to come into the neighborhood. So y'all are disrespecting the neighborhood. You're only members of a board. Who is the counselor from the project but myself? And we need to sit down and have a meeting and change the momentum. You can't do the same things and expect for a change. So we have to sit down and negotiate from the project. I'm the only one here that represent our people, that you got these foreigners come from other countries locking them up. Illegally locking them up. They supposed to only lock up their own people. And I don't almost finish, but this is the end. This is the end. That's like I'm saying, y'all in a court, you in the judge's chamber, and you trying to tell a public in a public meeting, and you're not even the public. You're supposed to hear from us so that you can take what we have and make it better for us. And now here you are want to stop us with 4 minutes. That can't be done.
It can.
It can.
I give him 1 minute of my time. You can have 1 minute of my
It can't be
time.
done. Everybody here wants the same thing that
You can
justice
have 1 minute of my
has to be
time.
served to us, and you have to have
You can have 1
judgment
minute of my
day.
time.
And this is your judgment day. Every time one of us come here, we're the public. You're not the public no more. So if you're having a public meeting, you need to hear from each and every one of us until we finish and complete it. Or the police should lock y'all up and not us, because we're the ones with the problem and y'all don't have one.
Thank you, Mr. Ray
Tired of this.
Ray Copeland.
I have 3 minutes.
You have 2.5. Because he
I thought I'd give him one
Come on,
line.
Mr. Copeland.
I'll give him one
Your
line.
name and address.
Good evening. How's everybody? Greetings. Thank you. I'm here this evening because I know that y'all are
Mr. Copeland. Name and
Ray Copeland, 236 Bedford Avenue.
address.
Good old Mount Vernon. For 60 years to me. 55. Got a little few. However, I'm sure that y'all are aware, what's the right word? The bomb job that was done to our streets, in the resurfacing of our streets. I know you travel those streets, and whoever the contractor was that was supposed to have resurfaced our streets, that fell apart before they even completed it. And I'm hoping, I just stopped by tonight to ask you, don't pay them. Not one penny. Do not pay those contractors one penny of our money. Even the streets that appear to be okay. It's too soon to tell whether they're gonna start falling apart also. Don't give them not one brown penny of the city's money. Hope. That's all I have to say. That's all I get, man. In my time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Yes. When I was working for the city, when I was working, come to think about it, when I was working for the city, there was a lot of things that went on in that department that should not have been going on as far as the construction work. I'm a contractor, I know right from wrong. And a lot of things that went down that should not have gone down. But if there's nobody in the house that knows what to look for, these things happen. That's why I always use the expression, who is watching the house? Good night.
Good evening, City Council members. Doesn't seem to be on, but I guess it is.
It's on, yes.
Yes, and happy holidays to you all. Well, I want to begin and thank you all for taking the action and unanimously passing the resolution last month.
Please.
Oh, I'm sorry, 600 Locust Street. No, Vernon.
Name.
Barbara DeGeorge. Thank you. I'm so excited to get started. All right, I want to thank you for passing the resolution in support of Green Light New York's initiative to get driver's licenses for all New Yorkers. It'll be very exciting to see this passed when the Democrats take over the State Assembly and the Senate in January. I'm proud that my city was involved in this worthwhile and necessary project. Thanks to all of you on the City Council, and thank you, Delia and Andre, for writing the resolution, and to all of you for passing it unanimously. Also, Janice and Delia, thank you for going to the county meeting. They called me the next day and told me that you were there, and I was really proud. Okay, so I was filled with hope that you could all work together to get something done for the common good. That was good news to me. But that hope was dimmed today when I read the article by A.J. Woodson in Black Westchester about the issue you are having with the selection of our next 2019 City Council President. A.J. states, "It seems there is a little confusion among the council members, and they cannot come to a vote. I'm hearing that it's 2-2, with one council member possibly not voting. Is this true?" I've done some research, and it seems that the process has been a rotating process, with the council president serving for 1 year. After that, the president pro tempore moves up to become the president, and the acting pro tempore becomes the president pro tempore. That is what happened last year when our current president, Lisa Copeland, became president, and Andre Wallace became the president pro tem, succeeding Marcus and Lisa Copeland. Since that is the customary practice, it seems to me that Andre Wallace would become the next president of the City Council, and Janice Duarte would become the next president pro tem. So where does the confusion lie? Many of you have said you want our government to be more transparent. What could be more transparent than following the process that has been done in the past? To me, the vote should be easy and unanimous. And I seem to remember last January that Janice even stated that she felt the process should be followed. So what changed? What is the problem? Could it be that our mayor may be forced to resign, and the City Council president would then become the acting mayor? Are you lining yourselves up to be in this position because you want to run for mayor and this would help you? I don't want to even consider that. It's because of personal feelings and egos that you want to break the process. It doesn't matter how you feel about the people that are supposed to be the next candidates or the next president and president pro tem. If you like them or you don't, if you agree with them or you don't, that is the process. And it's all about following the process and keeping it simple. We have enough problems in Mount Vernon without this being one of them. There is always so much damaging information in the press about the mayor and the controller and the lawsuits, and now the city council cannot get their act together. How can the citizens trust you if you cannot be depended upon to follow precedent and the rule of law? The residents of Mount Vernon are fed up. It's embarrassing that our city is so dysfunctional. You serve us, the people, not your own egos and interests. Please be transparent and do the right thing for your constituents. It's time to rise up and think about the people and only the people. By voting the process as it has been done before, there's nothing to think about. The vote should be unanimous, so you can move on to other more pressing business. We the people have had enough. We want our city government to function. You, the city council, work for us. Please listen to us and make this vote a non-issue. As the main character, Harry Beale, in the movie Network loudly proclaims, we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Valera Castillo.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? My name is Valera Castillo, and I am a homeowner and a taxpayer at 225 Rich Avenue, Mount Vernon. I'm here to speak also on the issue of process. I see Marcus is gone. Is he coming back? So we could do that? We could just,
Councilman Mercer.
so I remember earlier in this administration, I was speaking to Councilman Griffith about being more flexible with the mayor, letting him bring in the slide the city. What was the problem? What's the big deal? Can you just let him do it? And I said to him, are you guys just saying no to him because you don't like him on everything that he brings? And he said to me, no, actually, we've said yes to him in a lot of things. What he has to do is he has to follow process. And he has not followed the process, and there are customary things that need to be brought to the council before we make a decision, like he needs to get insurance, and he needs to do this and that, and so process is important. In fact, that has been for this body, the theme or complaint against the mayor, that the mayor fails to follow process. I understand that process is important. Councilwoman Copeland, Madam President, I have watched with very different people at different times all the meetings here and with the Board of Estimates. And I've watched other people comment and say, you know, making negative comments about you and saying that you lack professionalism and that you are not handling the meetings properly and that your attitude is not any good. And I find myself explaining to them and saying, well, you have to look at things from her point of view and her perspective. She's frustrated because people are not following process. So I say these things to say because it's important to me at this juncture as a business owner in Mount Vernon that we not only follow process and protocol, but we consider how important it really is. And that is in fact in January, Ms. Duarte, we put a lot of expectations on you coming into the body and Ms. Delia, as I had my children working hard for campaigns. Not that it matters that they did, but because you are for all residents and all the people in the community. But you were concerned also early in January about process. And I felt a sense of relief hearing your comments and speech. You said, and I quote, I want to explain my process. As I said, I think maintaining transparency is also important to maintain that process. I met with every single council member here individually before I made a decision, and in my decision, I saw the need and the significance of maintaining process. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. The president and the president pro tem and acting president pro tem serve a sequence of continuity of service, but also a subsequent performance of subsequent service. I see the president pro tem as rising to president the following year. There is a process. There's a line that we should follow and that had not been done in the past for a number of years. Whatever the reasons were, it to me is insignificant, but at this time it is important to reinstate that process. So besides Council President Copeland, being extraordinarily experienced and competent to do the duty of Council President, it was important for me to reinstate that process. And so that was my reasoning how I arrived to my decision. And it did not exclude anyone. I met with each of the council members individually to make a decision, and that was unquote. That was your comment. So I know that you guys understand the importance of process. The reason why I say this is because to me, as a business owner, there's a lot happening in the community that we can't get past and address. Are you aware that in the last 6 months, 10 businesses have been evicted, 15 have been locked out, and over 20 have been served, ready to go out of business because many of their complaints and many of the issues in the community are not being addressed. Why? Because we're too busy stuck on process, because we don't like it or we don't like someone. I would encourage you to really focus on being the lead in the new leadership of Mount Vernon, to really stick to process, and if the process is not working, vote for a committee in the community, create a commission that we can revise the charter and change process. It's very simple to me. Show teamwork because we need you. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Jamie Pessin, 49 Elma Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York, 10550. First thing I want to say is I hope Marcus Griffith is all right. He suddenly left. He did not come back, and anything other than an emergency would be inappropriate to leave. The second thing I want to say is regarding the word process. The actual process for the City Council President to be chosen is for them to vote on who they would like to be the City Council President. There has been a preference for people to take their turn, but that is not the process. And it has been my opinion in the past, and it will be my opinion today, that nobody that is running for a re-election should be the president during that time. So you're left with Janice, Delia, and Marcus, and despite the fact that Marcus left disrespectfully, I choose Marcus for experience. Secondly, I choose Janice if that is not the option you want to go with. But that's not the reason I'm here today, so I'll get to the reason. I would like to bring a few issues to your attention, City Council. Over the past year, I have made efforts to improve the community because there are expectations that the citizens of our city should be the change they hope to see. I have raised many issues that fall under public safety and codes, which is chaired by Delia Farguson and co-chaired by Andre Wallace. I am not happy with the level of advocacy in these areas. Sure, the community can see both pushing your own individual efforts related to public safety and codes, but when the public, like myself, bring up legitimate issues, they are ignored. Even if you will not listen or take action on these issues, I will continue to repeat them. Now, in order to save time, I will not read the chapters, but I feel everybody should know about, in the Mount Vernon City Charter and Code, Chapter 221-4, that starts with "it shall be unlawful" related to posting signs, and Chapter 221-5 related to any person convicted of talking about the fines that they could impose. And if I read those out loud, my next sentence would be, so as you can see, resolving this issue, which is the posting of signs on utility poles, would decrease the amount of litter in our community, it would hold offending parties accountable, and it would generate revenue from $1,000 a day up to $15,000 per individual violation, because for 15 days you could be charged $1,000 or get 15 days in jail. It also carries with it the penalty, so it's not to be taken lightly. This leads to one or more persistent offenders, which the sign title, "Don't Wait for the Snow," call low. While City Hall is struggling in the news to address how our streets will be properly plowed, don't you find a private business advertising on public property without permission from the city to be offensive? Doesn't this warrant any action from the council? When are we going to put more code enforcers in the budget to inspect buildings and also handle these smaller violations that result in major blight for our community? The many persistent quality of life complaints only show that our elected officials do not know how to work together, but do know how to win elections. There is nowhere to report these issues, as my calls to different departments yielded answering machines, which is another indication that more staff is needed. When reports are accepted, the complaints are still not taken care of. One day, not 1 month, not several months after the issues are reported. I take offense to being told to take the signs down when I want enforcement. But what I did do is I took 5 of those signs down, and I even took down one of the tax signs because that blasted our community greatly. This is $6,000 that you guys could have generated for the city, and even give to good business owners like Aleda, who took out a billboard right in front of the Con Edison building. You know, that money could go to business owners who want to follow the rules and not create blight. I've even been accused of picking on this one person who we all know is putting up these signs. I will remind the council, I have spoken on this problem when the signs trying to get our youth to become prostitutes presented themselves, when a tax service who probably wasn't fined even $1 put up signs up through the entire community, and when signs trying to buy our community homes at a reduced rate went up, and still no action from the council or the mayor. I will add that. I'm not asking what it is that I should do. I'm asking what it is that you're willing to do. With this, I have a copy of what I printed out and read for the pleasure of the council. Here you go. And that's everything I have to say tonight, along with the signs that I brought you as evidence, and they have his number on it if you would like to call it, or if you would like to pass it along to anybody that can do enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, while I know everyone is familiar with everyone, I would appreciate while we're in the council, as part of the council meeting, to address people as councilmen in their last name, and not by their first name, even though I know your friends. In this chamber, it's inappropriate during the meeting, so please address them by their type, their full name, councilman, councilwoman. I
Council
appreciate
President
that.
Copeland, I apologize for the shorthand. I will do that in the future.
Okay, I was talking to everybody, but thank you.
Okay, I am sorry though.
Okay, thank you. Brenda Crump?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Brenda L. Crump. I reside at 432 Dunham Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York, 10553. I'd like to talk about the budget. I'm not sure if I might have missed the meeting, the process in which it goes through the Board of Estimates and then comes to the council, and the council holds a public hearing, and you know that whole process, it goes back to the Board of Estimates, and you know that whole process, and then we get a budget for the new year. So will the council members please share the status of that, our budget, what's happening with that, and please review the process of how that is supposed to work in regards to our budget. Also, with our budget, the school district, with their budget, has stayed below the property tax cap. And so therefore, for the year of 2015, 16, and 17, those eligible residents receive rebate checks via the property tax freeze credit. And so also the school district has remained below its property tax cap, has done what it needed to do in submitting other documents to the state controller, and the residents, those who are eligible, also receive property tax rebate checks for the year 2018 as well for property relief credit. So my question is in reference to the city. The residents did not receive tax rebate checks for 2015, 16, and 17 because the city did not stay below the property tax cap, and the city did not submit, and it's escaping me right now, there was a document that the city needed to submit to the energy efficient, or energy efficient, don't quote me, I can get the exact word to you, but there was another document, something that the city needed to do that they had not done in addition to staying below the property tax cap. So therefore, because the city did not meet those requirements for the property tax freeze credit, the residents did not receive rebate checks via the city's not meeting those requirements, whereas the school district did, and residents did receive checks. So with our budget now, how are we looking in reference to being below the property tax cap, having a budget, and the residents possibly receiving property rebate checks because the city being in compliance with what the state is asking for. Lastly, I asked via Facebook, and I can't pull it up now because I wanted to put it on record and be able to quote it, but I guess some Wi-Fi connection or something in here, and it's not coming up, so I'll just paraphrase. But basically, I asked the question because I am a rules, regulations, policy, law, practice person, and I asked the question in regards to charter. So I did go to the charter to see what it says in regards to the presidency of the council and the pro tem president. I'll just say vice president. That's not the correct term. Y'all know that. But at any event, the charter does not clearly state what it is. So will the council members here please state for the public that's here and for the public, for Mr. Pessin's recording and the city's recording, what the process is, what the practice is, what the rules, regulations, policy, law, whichever it is that you have. I understand that it is a practice, but it's not charter, so it's not a rule in law, what the practice is or has been. I did ask that question to each council member, and of the 5 council members, 2 answered, and I want to thank those 2 individuals for answering the question for the community, and that is our president, Councilwoman Lisa Copeland, and our councilman, Andre Wallace, who did take the time to answer that question for the community, because I wasn't asking just on my behalf. That's why I did it on Facebook, because I saw things circulating around and people want to know what that practice is, what that policy is. And I'll close with this. I think that's my second buzzer, right? Okay. Okay, so I'll close. Yes, no, I'll close.
This your second close?
No, I'll close now with this. I mean, I said that before, I'm sorry if I did, but I said last, but I'll close with this. And that is, when we, as much as possible, humanly that lies within us, follow rules, regulations, policy, law, practice, charter, etc., it helps to minimize nepotism, favoritism, cronyism. It helps to keep things in order. And I say it helps because we will never eliminate those things that I've named, because we're dealing with flesh and we're dealing with humans. But it will help to minimize it when we do follow that evenly across the board for everyone, regardless as to whether we agree or disagree, like or dislike. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Casarella.
Hi, my name is Mike Casarella. I reside at 135 North Fulton Avenue, Mount Vernon, 10552. This letter is addressed to the City Council. I am here tonight to express my frustration with the way the business is conducted in Mount Vernon, and especially with the City Council. I usually do not get involved in politics, but I recently did because I felt there was a need for change in our city. I will say I have supported many of the council members who sit on this council. The city of Mount Vernon is in shambles right now. In business, there are checks and balances that must be followed, and the procedures are put in place to protect the businesses from exposure or failing. Another way of saying is, there is a process that must be protected and followed in order to avoid failure. Because we don't always adhere to the process, the city is in big trouble. In my opinion, the city council is failing its citizens. There is no respect for the process. How can you be successful as a body when you can't follow the process in which you yourself put in place? This will only lead to destruction. When you do follow the rules and procedures that have been in place for many years, you will have a harmonious work environment that all council people will prosper from. Please put the politics aside and follow the process. The taxpayer deserves better from the council people that we the people elected. Thank you.
John Gallagher? Thomas Kelly? Okay. That completes everyone. We'll start with responses from Councilman Wallace.
Thank you, Council President. Ms. Ned, regarding the bus situation and that parking lot that's been popped up on Fulton Avenue, we'll probably have to take a look at that because I don't even think that is,
Please speak up louder, please, I can hear you.
You hear me now? Okay, regarding that bus issue on Fulton Avenue, we have to look in to see if they're even zoned for that. I don't believe it is. I thought that others would be looking into it. However, I think Ms. Parkinson will take a look into it, but I will make a couple of calls to find out what's going on exactly with that bus parking lot. That seems to be out of place in the area. So we're going to address that, and I'll make sure I take a look at it also tomorrow and make some phone calls. And we'll see what we can do about that. Stephen Ritter, thank you for coming out as always. And Ray Copeland, Mr. Copeland, the pavement in the street was never completed. So that's what the problem is. They did what it was a recycling technique that was being done. There was supposed to be a number 1 inch topping that goes on top of it to close it out and to make sure it seals and binds. And that was never done because at that point, the actual commissioner was fired, so it has never been done. Right now, I guess we just wasted about $200,000 because we're back on the street, milling the whole street and doing it all over again. So it was a waste of money at that particular time. Even though it was a great technique, it's been working in other communities, but if you don't finish the job, obviously it's not gonna work. So that was an issue. That's something that, is unfortunate. However, it's basically, getting done over again. I don't know how that fell through. I know, my opinion is that the commissioner is no longer here and they didn't follow the process or to finish the procedures that had to go on top of it and continue. So with that being said, I guess all of the streets are coming up in those particular sections, but it's incomplete, So as far as Ms. Barbara, always a pleasure to see you, and you are welcome for the driving license. I think it was a great idea. I still say it's a great idea. I've been talking about that for years. I know some of my other colleagues as well, look at it as a great idea, and I hope it just passes through with the state and everything else, because with the driving license, it's better off that people or immigrants can get a license so they can get insurance, rather than run into your car and then take off because they have no insurance. So it gives us a way to find somebody also if they do hit your car or run somebody over the street. So that's a great thing. I just hope that the state keeps on moving forward with that and everything goes according to plan and passes. Regarding, I'll address yours and Ms. Ladies at the same time. Regarding the council president, to me, yes, it always has been a process of rotation. This is what was told to me last year, and I followed the process. When they said it to me that Lisa's turn, because she was President Pro Tem, yes, I voted for her also, because I voted for the process. And Councilman Copeland and I don't see eye to eye on many things. And people know that, but the few things we do, and we try to get those things across. This is something that we don't see eye to eye, For me, I think that basically with this situation, it's a matter of integrity. Okay, well, for me, I'm not going to continue to get into an argument of what's what. I know what my integrity is. I know where I stand. I'm going to focus more or less on doing what I do for the people and continue to do that from whichever seat I have. So it's going to be fine. So I'm not worrying too much about that at all. At this point right now, I keep saying the same thing. I didn't come to City Hall to get a job. I came to do a job. And I will continue to do the job that I do for the people. And that's it, from no matter where I am. But I will be here and I will be doing my job and working. Let the others do what they want to do. That's how I look at it. Right now we're on the news, we're looking ridiculous all over the place with this whole thing. And it's just more negative publicity to the city. So I'd rather step to the side of that negative publicity and all and just do what we came here to do and what we're elected to do, which was to make sure the work for the people get done. And the way we do it is with honor, dignity, and integrity. That is most important. So I leave that up to the others. Mr. Pessin, thank you for coming out, but I think you should take this to the mayor's office. The mayor has a meeting with the commissioners once a month. I think that's where you need to go and address this situation. The council has addressed this situation for years, since I've been here. We do not enforce the law, okay? We just go and we write legislation. So you're coming to the body constantly here, but you really need to go to the office down the hall, because that is the office that handles the day-to-day operation, and that is the office you need to speak to about getting these signs and getting the actual code enforcement officers to do their job. So that's where it has to go. Ms. Crump, regarding the new budget and taxes, the budget is not done yet. I know the mayor has a budget. I know the Councilman Griffith is working on a budget. The controller has a budget. And all of this work that's going on, it doesn't seem that anybody's communicating together and working together to get a budget done. I have no idea when the budget is going to come out. I have no idea when the budget is going to be finished, or where we are with the budget, or even if we're going to have a budget come finish, this year. So that's something that, Councilman Griffith could probably answer, because he's working on it. He's in charge of finance and planning. And I look forward to seeing exactly when that happens as well. So that will complete my comments, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Parkinson?
Thank you, Madam President. Let me say good evening to the community. It is good to see you engaged in the democracy, so thank you for coming. So, Ms. Ned, I know we had a conversation when you attended the last meeting, and I believe that some representations were made to you that communication would be made to the owner of the property. I don't believe that has been done. So I just began drafting a letter that I will have sent out to the Commissioner of Buildings tomorrow morning that will ask him to review the situation there, to identify whether or not there are any ordinances that are being violated, if a permit exists, and then we will ask for action to be taken. That would be my request in writing. And I will ask that a copy of the letter be sent to you. Mr. Ritter, thank you for coming. It's always good for you to share your insights with us, so thank you for being here. Mr. Copeland, I agree that the roads are a disappointment. It's clear that it did not work. And I'm pleased to see that something is being done to correct the conditions on First Street at least. So I don't know what will happen was done. But I do agree with you that, clearly that this is a demonstrated waste of our money. Mr. George, it was my pleasure to write the legislation based on your presentation here, and to also represent our community in White Plains. Thank you for bringing that so forcefully to our attention, and I was pleased to act on it promptly. With regard to process, and I believe, so I'll just address yourself, Ms. Castillo, and Mr. Casarella, seeing that you all spoke to the same matter. So, what the charter says is that the council, the city council, shall determine the rules of its own proceedings and be the judge of the election returns and qualifications of its members. I think that the charter is intentional. It was intentional about not giving directions. Because what the charter, in my opinion, does, is that it leaves it up to this honorable body to decide how they will arrive at a president. And the process is really quite simple. If you are able to get 3 votes, you are president. If you are not able to get 3 votes, you are not president. Now, last year, for those of you who would recall, and I know you recalled the statement from Councilwoman Duarte, if you recall, at that same meeting, I abstained. And I abstained because there was a meeting held prior to the reorganization meeting to which I was not invited, I was not included, and I was not informed. Decisions were made about who would take what positions, and I was not part of that process. So when the reorganization meeting was held, I abstained. Let the records indicate. So 4 people last year decided who would have the positions. And as far as I'm concerned, I've been asked to vote to continue a process that I was not a part of, that I did not agree with. And I will not, I choose not to. So if last year 4 people were able to arrive at a decision for who will take the positions, I see no problem. So I choose again to not vote. Period. Mr. Pessin, Councilman Wallace pointed you in the right direction. Bringing the signs to my attention on Facebook does not a referral complaint constitute. But Councilman Griffith is right. The day-to-day operations of the city is the function of the mayor's office. All the commissioners and the ordinance officers work for the mayor. We are legislators. Legislators write laws. It is not my responsibility to direct the removal of signs. So you are clearly mistaken. So I would suggest that you bring your formal complaints to the office of the mayor. I know you know him well and you have a good relationship. So you should have no problem having your complaints addressed. Mrs. Crum, Councilman Griffith is the chairperson of the Finance and Planning, and I will leave that matter of response to your question to him. As to review of process, I believe I've addressed that. So thank you all very much for being here.
Does that complete your report?
Yes, Madam
Oh,
President, so sorry.
Councilman Griffith.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm sorry I had to step out, but I did hear what everyone had to say. And I will begin with Mrs. Ned. Mrs. Ned, we've been on the phone. I've told you exactly what I wanted you to do, the information that you needed. If you did or did not get that information, simply let me know, and I will look into it a little bit deeper. But absolutely, I can understand where your neighbors in your block are highly concerned. I actually saw gasoline being poured poured into some of those vehicles on a certain date. So it adds to the problem that we have, that is not a gasoline facility site for them to be filling gasoline in those buses. I'm sure it may be really convenient that they don't have to drive to the gas station, but all of that is a problem. So I'm giving more ammunition. I believe that if you put everything, all the information that I've asked you to get together, you will have a very compelling case as to why that parking lot should not be there. We can talk after the meeting, not now after the meeting. Mr. Copeland, thank you. You were not here. You used to come to the council quite often. Yes, we were very upset about the way First Street was paved and how it was not completely paved. I saw some work out there today. I don't think the council knew that that was going to go on today, but it's a shame. We were pleased to see that the street was paved, because one thing that we asked for was for some of our main roads to be paved first, because that's the entryway to the city. But to see it deteriorate so fast was discouraging. So I'm glad you noticed that as a former DPW commissioner. Mrs. DeGeorge, thank you very much for coming up. I'm going to speak about the council president piece altogether. Mr. Pessin, thank you, sir. I also noticed these signs, and just like the rest of the council said, it is not our purview to do the enforcement, but there's a couple of those members that I went to directly and threw as much weight as I could as a council person to ask those people to tear those signs down. Most discouraging to me was the, I think it's not turbo tax, but the tax sign. I don't know if they have one of those. They were plastered all over our city. I was offended by it, because sometimes people put a few signs up, and I can kind of get that, but the tax sign was all over the place in multiple places. It was like graffiti to me. And I walked into that shop myself. One person was in there. He said he hired a firm to do it. And I said, well, you got to get that firm to take him down. And I wish the administration had fined him $1,000 per sign. He wasn't, and he's not from our community either, which makes it even worse. So I thank you for noticing that. Again, we don't have enforcement powers, but it should be very clear to anybody that does have those enforcement powers that those people should be violated for abuse to our city. So thank you for that.
Can I just ask the council people?
This is not the time for questions. I don't black out. This is not the time. Oh, if you want me to speak louder, that's fine. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So if anybody in the back cannot hear me, just raise a hand into one of these. It's not a problem. Mrs. Crump, thank you very much. You did talk about the budget timeline, and yes, absolutely, we are extremely late on the budget timeline. We know that we have a new controller, and I expected the controller to have a recommendation based on the current activities of the city's finances to combat the mayor's budget. As you all know, the process, or maybe you don't know, the first step to the budget process is for the Board of Estimate to vote on a budget so that it moves forward. And then there is a public hearing. We have not passed that stage yet to where the Board of Estimate has voted on the budget. We do know that the mayor presented a budget, but it was quite clear that nobody was going to accept that mayor's initial budget. It had flaws in it, actually, mathematical flaws that we determined really early on. So the mayor still hasn't really presented a valid budget. That's just the reality. This council can be, through the council president, the tiebreaker if there's a conflicting budget between the mayor and the controller. We can kind of step in there and say, we think you guys should move this way or move that way. We're the balance in that regard. And we just haven't gotten there yet. The controller has not presented a budget to myself or to the council yet. She says she has been working on it, but it's been, I believe, almost 2 months that it's been working on the budget process. So I am working. I have retyped the entire budget on my laptop. So when people come with numbers, I can type those numbers in and see if those numbers match to what I have on my computer. Because that's the stage that I have to take. And I've been telling this council that this is deja vu for me, because when I first got to the council in 2008, I did exactly the same thing. I retyped the entire budget so that we can make changes on the fly. So right now I can tell you that I am working with people in the administration, and I'm not going to name who, to get to the budget below the tax cap, which I believe right now is rounded to 2.7%. Okay, so the tax cap is rounded is quite higher than it's been in the past. So that's good, because that's revenue that we have for the city, which means we as taxpayers don't need to make up those millions of dollars that we have in increased sales taxes. So all in all, I think we're going to get there. The unfortunate piece is that we're extremely late. The budget will probably go into the new year, which is a problem for all of us, because if we don't get it out in a certain period of time, the controller's office may not be able to send out the bills in time, which means we may miss some interest for the month of January if we don't get the bills out in time. So as far as the process is concerned, the Board of Estimate has to vote, and then the Board of Estimate needs to have a public hearing. After that is done, the council gets the budget. The council's authority is that we can lower the budget for any line item with the exception of salaries. So we have to go through that process. We have to have a public hearing, and then we vote on it as well. And then the budget for the year 2019 becomes law. That's the process. We're just, frankly, not there yet. As far as the rebate checks for the being below the tax cap, I believe that the school system still has the advantage of being able to give taxpayers a refund by staying underneath the tax cap. But the city does not have that anymore. So by us staying below the tax cap, the only preventive measure is that this body, the legislative body for the city, has to vote to stay under that tax cap, which puts pressure on us to influence that the budget stays low. But if we stay below the tax cap, as we did last year, you're not going to get any check in the mail with the governor's signature on it. I just want to be clear. The tax cap is just an administrative, legislative vote that we have to override if we stay over. But of course, the incentive is to stay at a low tax increase, and that's definitely my goal. I hope that answers all the questions. We can answer more on the budget process, but I'm working on it with the council. I've asked the whole council to work with their departments that they're in charge of and get any budget increases that they can put into place. Mr. Casarello, thank you, sir. I know you spoke of the sewer system and what's going on there. We had a very good meeting, or I feel a very good meeting with the DPW commissioner, with his level of education on what needs to be done to repair the sewer system situation that we have. And it is extremely complicated. Just knowing how the sewer systems work is one piece, but knowing how they've been infiltrated with roots and this pipe is another whole level of understanding. And then the third level is knowing how to correct it, and then maybe the fourth level is knowing how to correct it with the authorities that are making Mount Vernon do it. I believe that the DPW commissioner we have now fully understands the process that we need to have in order to fix our sewer system. So we had that meeting on Monday, I should say, and I felt good with him in describing what he had to do. And the council is in support of it. The problem that we had in the past was that the commissioner is here. I didn't see you, sir. Good to see you, sir. I'm speaking of you. Thank you very much. The problem that we've had in the past is that commissioners and staff have come to this body and tried to explain what we needed to do. And this council's experience in the past dealing with the sewer system knew that that was not the resolve, and that was not the issue, and that was not the right direction to take. So we fought back. We fought back for the citizens of Mount Vernon, because we could be easily authorized to spend a tremendous amount of money to not get the results that we needed. And we're talking about the total of millions upon millions of dollars. So yes, we've been harsh and we've been direct because we know the situation and we believe we know how to resolve it, and we know when somebody's coming in to try to trick us into doing something that the constituents don't need to do. So we've been protected. I've gone to the EPA and going downtown to the meetings, and I've looked to my side of the table and criticized how we were handling the sewer system. And I'm going to continue to do that. But like I said, the commissioner of DPW did a very good job of explaining and saying what he needs to do in the next steps. As far as the city council presidency, I know everybody wants to talk about the process. But as we said before, other council members have said, the process is simply this. It's a vote of a confidence of the members of the city council. So in the past, people have been voted over, people have been shifted. It hasn't come to the level of Facebook attention that it has as it has before, but this has been done before, where people moved their way up and they were skipped over for whatever reason, for whatever year. So this is actually actually nothing new. It's nothing new at all. It is a vote of this body. And if somebody or some people don't have the vote of the council, then we are at the situation where we are now. I'm not looking for it to be an embarrassing thing for the city at all, but the citizens of Mount Vernon should really question each individual council member who have their own individual vote and try to ask them, why are you not voting for this person or that person, or what is your thought process and where are you going with this? So that they can understand the true impact of what each individual member is doing. And I think you'll see better where we are and what we're doing. And you should ask what happened in year 2000, whatever, as to why this happened or that happened. You should get why was Marcus River council president 2 years in a row. Sometimes I can't even remember the circumstances that happened at the time. So it's different every year. It's nothing harmful against the city. We're all working really hard. I think we have a good council. We're going to continue to fight for what I think is right. I'm going to fight for what's right for the city of Mount Vernon. And I think we're going to have a resolution to this soon. And you may not be happy, but that's the way it goes. The vote and the process is simply this. The 5 of us get to vote. And I think Councilwoman Ferguson is correct. You need to get to 3. It's not that hard. You have to count to 3 in order to be council president. If you don't have the confidence of 2 other members, including yourself, you're not council president. That's the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Duarte?
Thank you, Council President. Good evening to everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight, and thank you to all the speakers for having the courage to address the body. I'll just begin through the speakers in their order. Stefan Ritter, first let me apologize. I was late and I missed what Ms. Smith said. However, I understand the issue because you have been here before. I defer it to my council members whose committee does cover the zoning and the concerns that you have expressed. And so, I support their efforts, and certainly, and if any action is needed in this body, legislatively, we would support you. Obviously, for quality of life reasons. Stefan Ritter, thank you for your service, and again, as always, thank you for coming out and expressing yourself. Mr. Copeland, thank you for your service to the city as former DPW commissioner, and as you saw and know that we were trying a new technique that has demonstrated success in other locations. Unfortunately, because of the circumstances, it was not fully executed, and therefore it has not worked out. And it's unfortunate that that has taken place. But I'm glad to hear, as Councilman Griffith said, we were not aware that it's being worked on right now, but I'm glad to hear that it's being corrected. Mr. George, thank you so much for coming and addressing this body. And thank you for actually bringing to our attention the green light legislation. It was actually very overwhelming at the county event to see the amount of support. There were definitely well over 100 people in attendance. There wasn't enough room to accommodate all of them. And to hear some of the testimonials from some people, especially DACA recipients, who are impacted by this and are concerned even when DACA expires. So this is a very important issue for our community and for our immigrants across the board. And it's also a public safety issue. So we will follow it carefully, and I think we're feeling very confident that come the new year, with the new majority of the Senate, that we will see this legislation move, whereas in the past it has not. So again, thank you for that. I'm going to reserve my comments for later on regarding your second point. Jimmy Cusson, thank you again. You are persistent and consistent, and I appreciate that about you. This is an issue that you have raised, and you consistently come to the council and raise it because it has not been fully addressed and enforced. And you are correct about what you were saying. And again, my council colleagues have stated that unfortunately we are not in a position to
on it until that first step is taken. But that efforts are being made, until we get there. We are working on it. Many people in the administration are working on it. We're all trying to come together to get to that point. So finally, let me just come back to, so Ms. Crum, you mentioned you had posted on Facebook questioning Article 5, Section 33 of the Charter. And that's a section of the Charter that specifically addresses the election of the council president. And it is specific in that it states that that vote takes place on the 2nd of January of every year, and that the council president, pro tem, and acting pro tem are elected by a majority vote of the council members. That being said, many of the comments that have been shared tonight, including my own comments earlier in the year, which I still agree with. A framework or process or guideline is often helpful, and that is what that rotation provides. That still doesn't mean that we don't have our internal discussions. And so in my mind right now, those internal discussions have not concluded. And at this moment, no one has any votes because in truth, the vote will take place on January 2nd. Well, what I will say is that it has been brought to my attention some of the commentary or the dialogue that is on Facebook. And while a healthy discussion is necessary and part of the democratic process, what I am particularly concerned about are the broad attacks that some of the commentary is making at only the women on this council. And it's there, and it's concerning, and I think it has to be said. The attacks have been based on our hairdos, our weight, our body image. They're sexist, they're bigoted, and quite frankly, they have no place in Mount Vernon and in this democracy. So I just want to make it clear, and I'm not saying anyone in this room, but certainly the men on Facebook, and I hope they're watching, that have participated or allowed the dialogue to devolve to such a level prevents us from having an honest and constructive dialogue. There's no room for it here. And so my promise to all of you is that my decision and my vote on January 2nd will be lawful, will be in line with the charter, and will be a decision or a vote based on integrity. And I have nothing else to say, Council President. That concludes my remarks. Thank you.
I see the planning commissioner here, and I want to commend her on yesterday's event. Unfortunately, some of us couldn't be there. It was our last class at the Civilian Police Academy, but I do want to commend you. I did watch the feedback, and I got a lot of positive feedback about it, so I want to commend you on that. You're welcome. I would also say, Mr. Pessin, the ordinance officer who's around during the day and based in the police department is the person who's supposed to go out and get the signs. Doesn't have to be the building department. Call the ordinance officer tomorrow to the police department, and she can pick up the signs, like the same day, during the day, okay? That's what her job is, ordinance officer, to enforce the ordinances when the building department can't respond in time, okay? And as far as the council presidency goes, it's an internal discussion, and I won't have it in this venue. I'll certainly speak to you offline. And I'm going to call on, thank you all. I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. We celebrate. Thank you so much for coming out. But before we break to go into our legislative session, I want to recognize Councilwoman Parkinson for a presentation. And I have to be went to the holding. I really
Thank you, Madam President. I'll only take a minute of your time. Council President Copeland and I received a letter from a constituent constituent, recognizing the efforts of one of our workers here in our city. And so I thought it was important that we take an opportunity to just acknowledge Mr. Jeffrey Holliday. Mr. Holliday, we have a I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the council and the city, sir, for all the work that you do. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Since we're in pause mode, I want to echo that commendation for, I honestly didn't know his name, we call him Shop, right? So, thank you, sir. You know, like all of us, in the middle of him doing work all by himself, he doesn't work with a team, he just goes out there and gets it done. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is, it doesn't matter how big the job is. When Shop sees a problem, he just gets at it and just gets it done. And if you ever see him around the city, you'll know he'll take on houses that have not been taken care of, corners that haven't been taken care of. He'll take care of leaves, garbage, whatever it is, he gets it done. He doesn't have to take any direction. He just attacks at it. So I have time, right? Because this is here. He has the van, he goes in with the blower, with the brakes. He just gets it done. And that's what we need more of. When you see people around the city complain that there's 8 guys working, 1 guy's telling the other 6 guys are telling the 1 guy what to do, all that craziness, that's not the case with Shaw. Shaw just gets it done. He needs no direction, he just goes in there and gets it done. Council President, is that? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Congratulations. We're going to take a short, I guess, a 5-minute recess, and then we'll go into our legislative session.
Nice picture. Thank you so much.
Yes. The legislation of the order. Councilman Wallace.
Number 5 is for information, number 17, number 17 through 62 is all for information, and I had 3 add-ons. And that completes.
3 add-ons?
No, sorry, 2 add-ons.
So the questions that were asked on
Which
Monday
is
night
the salt
is
shed.
answered?
Yep, the salt shed and the snow removal equipment.
Okay. So that completes your report? That completes your report? That completes your report?
Yes, I said that.
Human resources.
Thank you, Madam President. Item number 39 is called for. Item 48 is on the agenda. Item 41 is for information. Number 42 is on the agenda. 43, 44, 45, and 46 are for information. I have 3 add-ons. Add-on number 1 refers to the Youth Bureau, is on the agenda at number 4. Second add-on is regarding the Veterans Service Agency, and that's on the agenda at number 6. And the third one is the transfer of funds within the Youth Bureau, and that's on the agenda at number 5. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Public safety, Code?
Thank you, Madam President. So item number 3 is called for, item number 8 is held, item number 9 is for information, item number 10 is called for, item number 11 is on the agenda. Item number 13, 14, and 14 are called for. Item number 15 is held. Item number 16 is held. Item number 29 is on the agenda. Item number 32. Is that on the agenda? I guess it didn't make the agenda. Yeah, I had it on the agenda pending, but I don't see it on the agenda. Number 32.
Is that number 10?
Oh, yeah, there it is, there. Thank you, Madam President. Item number 33 is called for, 34 is called for. Item 47 and 48 are for information. Item number 49 and 50 are called for, and that concludes. Oh, item number 54, I don't know. I don't know. And that concludes my report, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think you have one add on the resolution for
Francis Wynn.
finance and planning.
Item 1, I'm calling for. Item 2, I'm holding. Item 4 is on the agenda.
What was it?
Item 4 is on the agenda. Items 6 through 27 are for information. Item 28 is being called for. Item 30 is on the agenda. Item 31 is for information. And items 51 through 60 are for information. Madam President, I do have an item that I added to the agenda, enumerated as number 14. I'm asking for that to be held. If I have no, I have no
Well,
add-ons.
I think you, I'm sorry, Councilman River, I think you have to hold it when we get to it.
Right, so I will, I'm just saying. Okay.
Thank you. Roll call.
Madam President, item number 15, 16, I'm sorry.
Don't we do it at the time?
No.
Won't we do it when we-
Councilwoman Duarte,
Present.
Councilwoman Ferguson,
Present.
Councilman Griffith. Here. Councilman Wallace. Here. Council President Rowe.
Present. Legislation and Public Works.
Thank you, Council President. I have an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management and the Department of Public Works to lease, purchase, it says 22 trucks here, this looks incorrect. And vehicles, it's supposed to be 10. I don't know how we got to 22. Okay, can I see that legislation? And
Read it. I double checked it, I thought it was 10, but when I looked, it does say 22.
Not
Oh, 6 1, no. It went up.
No.
So change it.
Wait.
It's supposed to be 4 1 15.
This is not the legislation that we looked over, in our meeting. It was marked down as 10 vehicles, now it's jumped up to 22.
22. It says 22 right here.
But if you look in the legislation, in number 36, it does say 22.
Number 36 was.
No, I mean, in our referral packet, that's what it says.
Right, but we changed that night because we got a new letter that the commissioner came in with where we had modified this, and the only thing that I did minus was the one, vehicle that was the Equinox or the Chevy Traverse. We have the commissioner here right now. You mind if we question him on this, because we didn't ask him that question? On
Did
how?
we second?
No, we didn't even.
You didn't move it, yeah. Commissioner?
Commissioner, can you come to the mic, please? The legislation that we have that we're about to pass, the fleet trucks that we did on Monday when we were present, was 10 vehicles. It now has 22 vehicles on it. I don't understand the change and where it is, how it's happening.
I don't know how it happened either. The legislation that I brought to you dated December 10th the letter I brought, dated December 10th, 2018.
This is by the letter November 26th, so this is a letter that was, the wrong letter was probably given to the law department, or somehow something happened.
And the law department received law department letters.
Then how did this occur, I'm not understanding, because he said the letter was just done December what?
10th.
And this is November 26th, so obviously, you have that letter with you?
This is
It was an add-on, and when we did the add-ons, and we approved the add-ons are given to the appropriate department.
No, it was not,
To the law department.
No.
it was not an add-on, it was just a
Give
switch.
it to us that night.
Yeah.
Okay, it was added, but it was given to us that night. We went through it, we made the changes. His letter reflects the 10 vehicles, it doesn't reflect 22 vehicles.
I'm saying that the letter that he handed into you guys also went to the law department.
You
So
mean the
they
one with the
decided-
10?
Yes.
So why did the 22 go? We didn't,
We should ask the person from the law department that's sitting to the left of the council president.
maybe I should. This is the law, man.
Can we adjust it
Okay, but
based on the letter?
could we adjust it to his thing on the
It's
floor?
your legislation. If you're presenting it as you see fit. If that's your legislation, you can press it on the floor.
The prices, I think we're gonna have to hold it
I'm
and then
sorry, we're gonna have to hold this
redo,
one.
maybe we have to, convene a special because of that going into the season.
Yes,
We
it's
have to
supposed
do
to
one on
have
Friday.
little snow flurries tomorrow and coming up next
Let's see
week.
if I have time.
So,
All right, so
Friday, maybe Friday morning, we'll probably have to do a special to do it, because we want you to have it before, we want it to be on the board of estimate agenda.
yeah, this is just the wrong, somebody did the wrong. All right, so we're gonna hold on. Number 2, I have an ordinance authorizing the Department of Public Works to purchase a salt shed, $36,947. So moved.
Second.
On the question?
For the question, I think the council should be, I think Council Wallace should describe what the original price was for the salt shed and how the council
I
insisted.
thought we were just gonna thank the commissioner, that would be the better way to go, so close to the holiday season.
However,
Yes.
I thank you, I agree with Madam
Me
President.
too. I agree with that.
Thank you, Commissioner, for making
Your
the
diligence.
adjustment and the due diligence in your work. Thank you so much.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinson,
Aye.
Councilman Griffin, Councilman Wallace,
Aye.
Council President Bro.
Aye.
I have an ordinance amending chapter 256, article 1 of the code of the city of Mount Vernon entitled Vehicles and Traffic. So moved.
Second.
One question. So all of this was circulated, like to the departments, DPW, public safety?
Yes, the DPW commissioner is here. We want to ask him about it. He agrees with it, that this should have been done 10 years ago. You wanna-
And public safety?
Yes.
Okay. What, any other questions? I didn't. Six? Commissioner, are you aware of this legislation
I am.
in support of the Department of Public Works?
In support of the principle of it. It does, however, present.
Come to the mic.
I'm in support of the principle of it. However, there are some problems with the legislation itself, or the proposal I saw itself, the letter itself. First of which being, it references the improper portion of the city code. There's a separate section in the city code which does address that particular aspect, the whole section on street cleaning. And there's a whole procedure on street cleaning, and posting of signs, which calls out for
Got it.
something different.
Okay, so we're gonna hold it and we're gonna get it right for Friday, please, Council.
And
So we reference the correct code and we make sure it's right, just to pass it and not be effective.
Okay.
Not be
Madam President, I would also ask that we get the agreement of the, the reviewing bodies, the public safety, and in writing. I think that would be the safe thing to do, is to get that in writing so that it is on record.
Thank you, Commissioner. Human Resources?
I have an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Washington County Youth Bureau. So moved.
Second.
On the question?
Madam President,
Yes.
this is an add-on, correct, Councilwoman Rosemary?
Yes.
Okay, so I've taken the principal position to not vote on the add-ons, just because I think it complicates matters. So it is not because I object to these add-ons, it is just that, I just think we need to take a principal position on it. And so, I just want to go on record. And I'm conflicted because there's a resolution for Mrs. Wynn. So I'm conflicted, so I just want to go on record.
Council,
Yes. I appreciate Councilman Parkinson's concern. I chose to add this on to the agenda, even though it was provided to us late, because it is grant money from Westchester County for the Youth Bureau, and also because we are at the end of the year. So if I kindly request that an exception be made so that we can get this done for the Youth Bureau. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Councilwoman.
Council President?
Councilwoman.
I too have the same principal position of these add-ons. However, this is money, so I'll always take the money. So that's the only one that I am actually going to take on for if we're getting money from the city. Thanks.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Ferguson,
Aye.
Councilman Griffith,
Aye.
Councilman Wallace,
Aye.
Council President Copeland.
Aye.
Thank you. I have an ordinance authorizing the transfer of funds within the Youth Bureau. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Ferguson,
Aye.
Councilman Griffith,
No.
Councilman Wallace,
Aye.
Council President Copeland.
Aye.
I have an ordinance authorizing the mayor to accept funding from the Office of General Services for Veterans Service Agency in the amount of $8,529. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilman Ferguson,
Aye.
Councilman Griffith,
Aye.
Councilman Wallace,
Aye.
Council President Copeland.
Aye.
I have an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Westchester County Board of Legislators for the Recreation Department and Summer Basketball Camp. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Ferguson,
Aye.
Councilman Griffith,
Aye.
Councilman Wallace,
Aye.
Council President Copeland.
Aye.
I have an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Westchester County for the Farmville Summer Programs and Recreation Department. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Ferguson,
Aye.
Councilman Griffith,
Aye.
Councilman Wallace,
Aye.
Council President Copeland.
Aye. Public safety and codes?
Thank you, Madam President. I have an ordinance granting permission to staff members of the building department to attend the New York Building Officials Conference from 212, 312, 49, 514, 2019. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Roll call?
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Farkas,
Aye.
Councilman Griffin,
Aye.
Councilman Wallace,
Aye.
Council President Cooper.
Aye. I have an ordinance granting permission for 3 members of the police department to attend the PEFG National Conference on 12/3 and 12/4. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Roll call?
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Farkas,
Aye.
Councilman Griffin,
Aye.
Councilman Wallace,
Aye.
Council President Cooper.
Aye.
I have an ordinance amending Chapter 267, Article 9 of the Code of the City of Mount Vernon entitled Zoning. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Roll call?
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Farkas,
Aye.
Councilman Griffin,
Aye.
Councilman Wallace,
Aye.
Council President Cooper.
Aye.
I have a resolution honoring Francis W. Wynn. So moved.
Any seconds?
Second.
Second.
On the question? Myself and Councilman Parks attended, it was a great event. Mrs. Wynn, I hadn't realized that she had not been honored by this body. So she was ecstatic, so it was a great event. Roll call?
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Farkas,
Aye.
Councilman Griffin,
Aye.
Councilman Wallace,
Aye.
Council President Cooper.
Finance and planning?
Thank you, Madam President. I have orders to reclassify the title of senior accountant to chief accountant within the Department of Planning and Community Development. So moved.
Second. On the question? Roll call?
Councilwoman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilwoman Farkas,
Aye.
Councilman Griffin,
Aye.
Councilman Wallace,
Aye.
Council President Cooper.
Aye.
Madam President, I ask you to hold item number 14. Item 15, I have a resolution of the City of Mount Vernon City Council declaring its intent to serve as lead agency pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act for purposes of reviewing a zoning petition submitted by the Alexander Development Group requesting amendments to the RMF 15 zoning district. So moved.
Second. On the question?
Madam President, if I may.
Yes.
So, Madam President, I tend to vote no on this, this resolution because I feel like, we need to move closer and make intentional efforts to have a comprehensive plan. I feel like our continued, ad hoc approach to development will lead to us being overdeveloped and not in a comprehensive way. So I just wanted to know that, Madam President.
So you understand the resolution just starts the process, it doesn't even have anything to do.
I understand, Madam President. Thank you so
You
much.
understand anything, I'm not gonna do it. Anyway, roll call.
Councilwoman Duarte,
Abstain.
Councilwoman Farkas,
Abstain because?
yes.
And it's easy because I wrote Councilman Ferguson's concern. It's difficult to look at proposals such as this in light of
fund 2 planners, 2, what else? 2 planners, 2 grants.
Two planners.
Anyway,
Two planners.
2 planners, which hasn't been disclosed despite being tasked at the Board of Investment, but I digress. Legislation and public works. And can't have a comprehensive plan without planners. We don't fund the position, who's gonna do it? Who's gonna do the work? The clerk has to read the veto message. I'm sorry. Mr. Clerk.
We have a veto on this action, legislation number 16. It was dated December 10th. Dear council members, veto number 1, pursuant to the authority granted to me under 38 of the charter, City of Mount Vernon, I am vetoing item number 1 on the city council meeting agenda from the meeting held on Wednesday, November 30th, 2018. The legislation is now approved as to form by the Board of Health. That was taken by the mayor, CC controller, corporation council. This particular legislation was approved by the city council on the 30th. Everyone on the council voted for this resolution.
Thank you,
In
Mr.
favor
Clerk.
of this resolution.
If I'm not mistaken, since our assistant corporation counsel left, has there been any legislation approved before? I'm just, for the public, I just want that.
No, we have not had any legislation approved.
I'm not sure, Council President, can we ask the corporate council?
My text message. I think, did we vote on it? No. Please read the, override Councilman Hall's legislation from the word.
I have a resolution by the city council authorizing the issuing of subpoenas for certain documents related to city water board. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Councilman Duarte,
Aye.
Councilman Patterson,
Aye.
Councilman Griffith,
Aye.
Councilman Wallace,
Aye.
Council President Corrigan.
Aye. Is there any further business?
Madam President, if I may.
Yes.
Madam President, I would like to ask this body to once again, consider utilizing board docs or reviewing board docs, or at least, at the very least, having this body be equipped with, tablets, computers, so that we do not have to contend with all this paper and being overwhelmed by paper, and the cost must be astronomical. So I'd like us to go into the new year with that, with us having, instead of all this paper, us having electronic devices to review all the referrals and to make our comments and to manage our roles as city council members, Madam President.
I agree with you. And last year, I thought that there was a proposal that went forward. I don't know what happened to it, for tablets. Or what was this, but I can't remember what happened with it, and I'll have to look back at my
I
notes.
think board docs is very effective, the library uses it, the school board uses it, it is very, very effective.
Film your
And so I think that we should just go ahead and just bite the bullet, figuratively, and just go ahead and do it. I think it will make our lives so much easier, we don't even understand how much easier it's gonna make our lives.
I don't disagree. Any other business to come before this body?
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.